I know that I want to just thank you for staying with us. I am just amazed that this room is still full. I know that there are trains and planes and cars to catch, and I know everybody is anxious to go home. I brought with me a picture from my grandson. This is his picture of going home. He lives in New York, outside of New York, and he's always in traffic. So he said to me, Nona, this is a picture of going home in traffic. So I use that as my way to sum up. I should introduce myself since I asked someone not to. My name is Joan Lombardi, and I am here on behalf of many of you and the Buffett Early Childhood Fund and many of the other organizations that I've had the blessing and the honor to work for. And to help kick off the beginning of this administration and to watch the leadership continue has been a special, special honor. I want to start first from my heart by having you help me thank Jerry, Debbie, Sherry, Susan. Let's give it up for them. They put on a 5-star conference, wouldn't you say? We have grown from 400 to 700, and I bet it'll be 1,000 next year. So they have to start looking for the hotel now. But the best part of this for me is that I feel like we're a community, and that we're willing to talk and debate the way we just heard and think and grow, and that's what makes this all exciting. It is about relationships with each other, yes. And I think, how many of you have been looking at Padlet? Have you been using Padlet? You can see every quote in there has an exclamation mark after it because people are so enthusiastic about this work. So I wanted to start that way by thanking that table over there and all of you. Oh no, somebody has to get my phone and throw it away. Oh, it's yours, not mine, thank you. I love that Barbara Reisman, without even knowing, used Woodstock as in her opening. I tried to think of a metaphor for this conference, and all I can think of was the 3 days of music and peace. That was the slogan for Woodstock, for those of us that were around. We didn't have the music, but I will tell you, early childhood is about peace. That's what we're really promoting, and let's hope and pray that we'll have a world that gets there. But our 3 days wasn't about music. You have heard 20 plenary speakers, 8 hours of breakout sessions, hundreds of PowerPoints, dozens of hallway conversations, and conversations in the bathroom. And I loved that we took over the men's room. Hey, we couldn't do that in 1960, whatever. And God knows we needed it because you did drink all that water. Hopefully you had a lot of laughs and ideas, and I really hope you didn't have too many headaches because I know that that can happen. So before I give you your takeaway messages, I want to start a new tradition. I want to do a new award, and I don't really have prizes, but I'll at least shout them out. I want to give the most innovative workshop titles, and I'm giving this award to 2 of them. First of all, It Takes a Village to Screen a Child. Yes! Sujata Bansal, Erin Lucia, Sarah from California. Are they here? They may have gone. Yay, give them a hand. Woo! Unsolicited. I'm sorry I couldn't get there. And secondly, to Teresa Hawley, Ann Mitchell, Laura Johns, a provocative conversation, plotting, I love that, the grand plan. Give them a hand. So next year, you have to really be creative because it's hard to select. So I have 7 takeaways. There's so many things to take away from this conference. It's almost mind-boggling. I had this wonderful conversation with Marcia, I don't know if she's here, who said to me she told her her daughter was trying to explain what she does. She's a consultant now, and her daughter was telling her friends, what my mother does is take things that are simple and make them complicated. I hope I paraphrased that right. And sometimes I feel like when we're all talking about QRIS, I keep thinking that people think we're playing Scrabble, and those are our letters. But anyway, this is my grandson's message to me a few Sundays ago, so I wanted to use that. I have 7 takeaway messages. I'm sure you have your own. These are mine. I do hope that you take them and share them with your staff and your colleagues and your friends and talk about them. That's really what we're after. First of all, I think the number one thing for me is that we need, especially now, in the United States, to celebrate our diversity and to be intentional about addressing it. Carla Thompson brought this home so well in her opening. She asked us a series of questions, and I want to remind you at least of one. How can we ensure that all children, regardless of race, income, zip code, have an equal chance of success? Please bring that home and talk about it, especially now. I was so proud last week when NAAYC issued this statement about the humanitarian crisis, which I hope is an opportunity, that we appreciate the worth and the uniqueness of all children, that a great nation confronts barriers and biases that limit our ability to reach a child and promote his potential. We should celebrate that. If you haven't seen that, please get that statement out that NAAYC put out last week, and let's celebrate our diversity rather than using it as a barrier. I think they came up over and over and over again, including all kinds of diversity, including children with disabilities, which I don't think we've talked enough about here. Secondly, I want to kick off a new era of focus on teachers. Someone said during the conference, teachers are the heart and soul of the quality system. I think we need a new systems chart that actually puts a child with a teacher and a family in the middle of the picture, because all of this is about helping that. All of this is about fostering those relationships. It's not about the standards as the center. We've always had children at the center, but we have to keep reminding us of that. And you know, the country is about, and it has been, in the middle of a debate about jobs. We have the jobs. Now we have to dedicate ourselves to making them the kinds of jobs that the new generation wants to be in, the kind of profession that they want to be in. So we have to listen to their voices. That came out so beautifully. Their opinions, what do they need to get there? Not just the rating. We have to improve their working conditions, assure they have a living wage. It is time for us to say, we love children. Love is not enough. It does not feed a teacher's family. It does not put their own child through college. We have to do more. If we're asking them to do more, then we have to pay them more. And we have to be concerned about their mentoring their lives. They are so important to us. We are so lucky about this new data that's coming out of the National Survey of Early Care and Education that was so beautifully discussed, and Shannon's response to it in one of the early sessions. So I want to tell you, before I talk a little bit about that, that I've been cleaning out my basement too. And so that's what grandmothers do, and that's why we're the ancestors. So I wanted to bring 2 reports to you. How many of you have ever seen these 2 reports? One came out in 1979. It was called Children at the Center, the red one. It's kind of wrinkled now. Children at the Center, and it was the results of a big study, just like the new one that we got. And I was like 27 or something. And I remember the principal researcher standing up and saying what we found after millions of dollars was that teacher training made a difference and small groups made a difference. And like, I was a preschool teacher, like I knew that, you know? But what was important about that was that we began the documentation process. Now that was 1979, 78, 79. That was the same year that Marcy Whitebook wrote a expose on who's caring for the child care workers, the very same year. Then I go to the next report, and so when you're cleaning out your basement, you can hardly get more than a box because you sit down and you read all this stuff. You know, it's like blowing your mind. It's like, could I have written this yesterday? And then a landmark report came out 10 years after that, the National Child Care Staffing Study. How many of you remember that? Once again, Marcy had to put out a new report 10 years later that looked at how much movement we were making over that 10-year period. And what it said, this is 25 years ago, she's about to come out with the follow-up to this, so stay tuned in November, that child care teachers with a BA were making about half of what women with a BA in other professions were making, and I can't remember, it was either a quarter or a third of what men with a BA were making. So that was 25 years ago. Let's just take a peek at the data on the early childhood workforce that just came out. And I want to thank, and if Elise is in the audience, and Bobby Weber, thank you, thank you, thank you. Let's give them a hand. This is amazing data, and as Shannon said the other day, you have to use it, put it to work. So just 2 slides from that data set, the national survey. Looking just at the million center-based teachers, about 34% caring for infants, about 57% care for preschoolers, about 9% care for both. So you see, we don't have very many mixed-age classrooms out there. But let's just take a peek at their salaries just for a second. So what do we know about them? That those that care for children under 3 make about $9.30. Those that care for preschool do a little better, $11.90. This is teachers and caregivers. Both, that care for both, $10.60. So now let's move to those with a BA. Teachers with the BA that teach infants and toddlers, $11.30. Teachers that teach preschoolers, $15.50. 1979, 1989, 1999. It's time, folks, for us to make this a core issue. So, my third takeaway, I'm getting there, is that families are the gateway. What distinguishes this field is we don't have to have a special conference to tell us family engagement is important. It is a core value of our field, and I hope K-12 learns that, because it's a very important value. I have 3 pictures. I want to talk about each one of them. The one on the bottom is my grandniece, Avery. So I watched her, I watched my niece go through pregnancy, and I kept saying, have you looked for childcare? Are you looking for childcare? And you know, this generation, it's like, it'll be there when I look. And I'm sweating it out, right? And finally, she has the baby, and I'm like, did you find childcare? Because I know, because God knows she lives in the United States, so she doesn't have paid leave. And I'm waiting. Yeah, it's time for that, too. I'm waiting. And so I'm sharing this as a parent, which I wish we had more of here, as a relative. And so she says to me about a month, I know she has to go to work at a month. Avery's going to be a month. He's about 2 or 3 months here. And she said, we found a center. I said, I can't believe it. I'm scared to death. What's it like? Like, give me the name of the center. And so what do? Because she's in Ohio, you see, and I'm in Washington. What do? I look at the rating, and I feel great because it's got the highest rating. And I'm like choking up about this, that I can do that from so many hundred, where's Ohio? Thank you for me and my family. And then I could go on the same website and find out the qualifications of the director and the teachers. This makes what we do, what you do, it makes a difference to families. And so let's start with that. It makes a difference to families. But that's why we better be right about those ratings, because I don't want to find out that that is not a 5-star or a 4-star or a 3-star program. The other picture is of the cover of the report that we did at the Aspen Institute, saying that that early childhood programs are the gateway to families. It's not just an extra component. We see them every day. You know, there's a lot of excitement about doctors promoting reading to children, which I love. I love that program. But we see them every day. Think of what we can do. What is our goal for family engagement? It's very simple to me. It's not about engaging them in the program. It's getting them to engage with their children. That is the primary goal. And I look at those two faces and I just feel such joy for them because I can see how much they kind of love each other. And finally, the father, let's not leave him out of the picture. There's been not a talk about fathers here. We've got an international men care campaign. It's time to put the dad in the picture, even if he's not living with her. He's out there somewhere, otherwise that child wouldn't be here. So that was my fourth. Let's keep innovating. You know, we're just at the beginning of this process. We're trying to fly the plane and make it at the same time, and that's really causing us a lot of struggle because, you know, I stood up at the research validation session and said, if I'm a state legislator, what do I want to know? I want to know, is this making a difference in the lives of children, what we're doing? But yet, we need to keep innovating. So these are polar opposites, you know, trying to get the answer. And Stephanie Clothier from the Alliance really helped me here. She said, what we're trying to do is find out what is the threshold when we can expect to see improvements in outcomes. What's the threshold? At what point? And let's think about outcomes in a much broader way. So we have a lot of discussion to do about this as we continue to innovate. But I think there's 3 ways I want us to just touch on to innovate. We have to continue to refine the progression. You heard a little bit of that in the last session. What are we asking teachers from one level to another to do? And how is the compensation structured around that? What does health and family engagement look like in a 1-star program compared to a 5-star program? Can you feel it? Can you really articulate it? What does financing look like across levels? There's lots of talk about financing throughout the conference, and I think we even need more. And I will tell you, my bugaboo, I hope we stop calling it subsidy and start calling it tuition assistance. And do low-income children have real access to the highest levels? Because that's what we want. So we've got to keep thinking about the progression. We also have to keep thinking about the crosswalk. We have made progress, but we still have early Head Start standards, pre-K standards. Our goal is to bring all this together under an umbrella, and we have to have that crosswalk. I love in Washington State that they can articulate how early achievers fits with their preschool program, fits with early Head Start. So we've got to keep making that point. There's got to be a crosswalk across these programs. That was the goal. And I also think we've got to continue. I loved the conversation about community. I think what we're trying to do here is not just the ratings, but create a hub in a community. And I really want to commend Ann Mitchell for her amazing work on this over the last few weeks and months. We want to create a hub in every community where quality can be centered, and the empowerment of quality in all of the programs in a community can be centered. Susan told me this great story about their new library effort that Build is doing, where the community has a bell in the middle of the community, and every time a child learns to read, they ring the bell. This is a I love that, Susan. This is a community effort. It takes a village to raise a child. I think it is all about community. Fifth, I want to encourage new thinking about curriculum. Teresa Holly mentioned this in her remarks, and it came up in several workshops. I went to the Head Start Research Conference the other day, and there was, what are we finding about the science curriculum, this literacy curriculum, this math curriculum? And I thought, if I was a teacher, how would I ever figure out how to put this all together in an integrated way? We need an integrated curriculum with social emotional development as the core. That's what sets up the foundations for children's learning. We want children to be excited about learning, and that means using art, nature, science, social studies in the neighborhood as the content through which we teach math and language. And so I want to switch our thinking around it. Sometimes we have all these early learning standards around this circle. I'd put all that rich content in the middle and try to do your skills through it. We need to move from early learning standards to a conversation about curriculum, and one that goes birth to aid. I want to just make one last comment. I loved Harriet and Marcy's comments about the data, and I want to commend Sharon Ritchie. If you didn't go to her workshop or you didn't hear her speak, she talked about what is the purpose for collecting all this data. And she said she says to teachers, and I hope I have this right, this is the inquiry into your practice. What do you find interesting about what you're learning from this data about the children? So it's that kind of use of data in a formative assessment way. I rather use it that way to improve practice. The word accountability starts to worry me a little bit. And so I think we need a new dialogue around curriculum. So I was honored to hear the word, I was thrilled to hear the word leadership talked about over and over again. This is usually animated, but I couldn't figure out how to do it. You know, when geese fly, when the one in the front gets tired, it moves to the side, and the other one moves, someone else moves up to the front. And that's what, to me, leadership is all about. It's about passing the baton. It's about new ways of thinking about leadership, new ways that really promote round tables, not somebody at the head of the table, but a new way of thinking about leadership that is much more shared than I think the leadership concepts that past generations came together around. I was honored yesterday with Leah Austin, Dr. Leah Austin, who's in the audience somewhere, thanks Leah, joined me for a small conversation with about 25, we didn't know whether to call them emerging leaders, new leaders, mid-level leaders, just wonderful leaders. And we asked them, what do they need? What do they need to move on into even further into their leadership roles? And this is what they said to us. They said we need opportunities. It's not that they were saying, you know, kind of get out of the way, senior leaders, but they want opportunities. They want us to give them space. They want us to give them license to lead. And they want us to be there to help them through that, to help them mentor them through that. But they need encouragement. They need recognition. And so I think we need a new era of purposefully, intentionally including leadership in our systems approach in every state in the country. This is the ovals that Deb Mathias started our session with. I would say in those days, we said, back when they did it, I can't even remember what year this was anymore, define and develop leadership. So leadership was there, but I think we need to re-say that, and now we should say, identify, develop, and diversify our leadership. We have to intentionally make sure that our leaders are reflective of the racial, cultural, language compositions of the children we served, and we have to do it, and we have to be intentional. And I will tell you, I'm on a quest about this. For the next 2 years, I want to see leadership programs in every state. And I know that you can help all of us do that. So my final thing, I ended last year with this slide, this old bear, to say that what I really want you to know from the bottom of your heart and my heart is that you're not alone. And that's why this meeting is so important, because it creates community. This is a global movement. Many of you know that I left my public service job to do work on the international side. It has been a joy. Every time I'm in another country, I wish you could see that they're talking about the same things. This is a rally in Brazil about early childhood. This is a picture, and I know we have 2 people from this picture, from Global Leaders with us. Global Leaders for Young Children, just a new set, just went through a training program in San Juan a few weeks ago. 50-some people from 26 countries, every region of the world, talking about standards, advocacy. They are with you. You are with them. And I want you to remember that. This is the beginning of a program in Uganda. This is the only place they had to do the program. And then a business came along and built them this center. And so they were trying to move from there to where they were going in this center. And, you know, we've had a lot of conversations about how do you bring the natural environment back into this, you know, kind of concrete structure. But they were so very, very proud of this. They are doing quality improvements. This is rural India, and this is outside the community. That's the child care program at the top. This is inside that child care program. They are looking at how you define room arrangement and all the things that we're talking about. This is a program that I visited outside in the playground in Norway, where they were all sledding, and all I could think of is, God, would that ever pass health and safety standards? And they were actually doing bonfires out there. It was amazing. It was in January. Who goes to Norway in January? But, you know, they had a very different cultural context there. And that cultural context was so important to what they did. This obviously is a playground in the Andes, and they had a visitor that day. But this is my favorite. This is children trying to learn in a war-torn country. This is where they go to learn. This is what they have. This is the context of what they have. But, you know, they're doing it. They're reading. Just like Malala says, nothing is going to stop them. And I know nothing is going to stop you. Please take their spirit with you. Susan started this conference with Margaret Mead. I'll end with her quote, "The solution to adult problems tomorrow depends in large measure on the way our children grow up today." Treat them well, my friends. God bless you, and safe journey home.